What's going on, everyone? The MSOS ETF is up 32% in the after hours trading on news that President Donald Trump might actually reschedule cannabis. So let's dive into the events that have transpired tonight. This is absolutely crazy. I was down on my luck thinking that this catalyst might not come until year end. I've been getting so much flack on this trade, so many people annoying the crap out of me. So let's dive in and let's just celebrate this good news. So first things first, Kevin Sabet, who is one of my least favorite people on planet Earth. He's basically a propagandist that basically he is the CEO of this organization, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, and he spreads propaganda and reasons why cannabis should stay completely illegal, non-rescheduled, etc. He posted this video. Let's watch the video.
Hey everybody, Kevin Sabet here, President and CEO of SAM. You know, if the rumors are correct, President Trump is going to call for marijuana to be rescheduled to Schedule 3. Obviously not an outcome we wanted, but I can tell you that it's not going to be good for our country for many reasons. First of all, it's going to give tax.
So what's weird is Kevin, it appears he somehow knows that this is happening. And lo and behold, shortly after he puts this video out, we get the news from the WAPO. But let's just finish out what he's saying.
Breaks to big marijuana companies. That's why him and his buddies want this to happen, because it's going to benefit them. The other issue that we're concerned about here is going to send a really bad message to young people. They're going to think it's legalized because it's being downgraded. Rescheduling marijuana does not legalize marijuana. And in fact, as you know, the hemp was just made illegal. Multiple states are trying to make marijuana illegal again. And we've seen how disastrous this so-called experiment for marijuana legalization has been. So we also know from multiple sources and really multiple different folks that this was a very vigorous fight in the administration. But at the end of the day, President Trump listened, I think, to some business associates and friends, not to the science, not to the data, definitely not. And it's going to not be good for our country. What I can tell you, though, is that Schedule 3 opens the doors to actually a whole number of restrictions. So you can't put Tylenol in candy. And so if we're really going to treat it like a Schedule 3 drug, we're going to expect the FDA to actually enforce what's happening. So we'll see whether this happens or not. At the end of the day, of course, with this president, anything is possible. Obviously, it doesn't sound good from the rumors we're hearing, but I can tell you that either way, we're going to keep fighting for America's kids. Thanks.
Fighting for America's kids, even though cannabis is going to be age gated and it's going to be 21 plus. So this guy is just spewing complete propaganda, saying the science doesn't support it. The HHS under the Biden administration, which is the leading authority in the United States on science, was the one that gave this recommendation to reschedule cannabis. So yeah, this guy, in my opinion, this video was him essentially just waving the white flag and being like, guys, this prohibitionist argument, it has failed, and, you know, GG, it's all over. So now let's dive in to what transpired shortly after. And I was in the middle of writing our newsletter for tonight, and all of a sudden I see this appear on my timeline. This is on the Washington Post. Trump seeks to cut restrictions on marijuana through planned order. Now, let's just dive in here. He's expected to direct agencies to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule 3 drug. If you've been reading the newsletter, this is something that we've been talking about, you know, for months and months and months now. But yeah, if you look deeper in here, he's expected to push the government to dramatically loosen federal restrictions on marijuana, blah, 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 according to 6 people familiar with the discussions. He discussed the plan with House Speaker Mike Johnson in a Wednesday call from the Oval Office. So this would have been yesterday. Said 4 of the people who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. Wow. So this is still rumors. The president is expected to seek to ease access to the drug, blah, blah. Now, this is interesting. Trump in August said he was looking at reclassification. That's when the MSOS had the huge run higher. We're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. This was his quote from back then. Now, this is really interesting. The president was joined Wednesday by marijuana industry executives, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Chief Mehmet Oz, 3 of the people said. And basically on this call, Johnson was the skeptic And he gave a list of reasons why, including several studies, which to me doesn't make sense, probably just propaganda studies, because cannabis really is medicine. And a lot of these drugs that they prescribe, those are drugs. Trump then turned over the phone to the executives gathered around his desk who rebutted Johnson's arguments. Now, these industry executives, they have been advocating for this rescheduling for years, cannabis reform for years. They know the arguments inside and out. And the thing is, they are winning arguments. So I'm sure that just went over perfectly fine for them. Trump ended the call appearing ready to go ahead with loosening restrictions on marijuana. But it says the plans were not finalized and Trump could still change his mind. So anything is subject to change. We haven't gotten the official announcement yet. So keep that in mind. But this appears to be the announcement before the announcement, essentially the leak of the announcement. So now let's take a look at the price action. The MSOS is up 34% in after hours trading. And this is nuts. We are approaching the highs from a few months back when everyone was really believing that rescheduling might actually be a thing. So this MSOS ETF, if we just zoom out to the daily chart, we're back at $5.04. We have a VPOC above at 526. But yeah, now this base from, just a price action standpoint is perfectly repaired. Now this looks like a Can Slim setup. Now we're going to be above all those key moving averages. And this is the key. If there's one thing that you leave this video with, no one owns these stocks. I'm going to repeat that. No one owns these stocks. I'm going to repeat that. No one owns these stocks. And these are some of the most illiquid companies. And that's a big reason why I bought into this theme with no announcement in hand. Because I knew that when the announcement came out, it would be a dash for these stocks and it would just make more sense to have already been holding them. This took a lot longer than I thought it would. It's been a painful process. Really, these last 2 weeks, as the ETF just fell into the abyss, it's been a really rough couple of weeks for me. I'm not going to lie. As you can see, I'm kind of in goblin mode right now. So very tough, but very good news. VFF is up 12% in after hours. We can see that this is actually trading pretty much up to those 52-week highs. Now, what's interesting, if we look at the underlying companies within the MSOS, look at how illiquid they are. So let's go over to a few of them, and I'm going to go to the daily charts to make it easy. Let's take Truly, for example. The CEO, Kim Rivers, she was probably one of those executives on the call. Average dollar volume of only $3.8 million. That is absolutely nothing. If people want to buy this stock and everyone's stampeding to do so at the same time, it is going to be so hard for them to do that without moving the price. So what's important to think about is, like, for example, the AI theme, ChatGPT, all this good stuff. That theme rallied for 3 years. It takes a long time for things to get priced in. I'm not saying that this cannabis trade is going to go for 3 years. I obviously can't see the future. But for anyone thinking like, I'm going to cash out tomorrow, that's like literally the world doesn't own these companies. And for the most part, if you're hearing about this rescheduling video and you're listening to this, most investment professionals are not even thinking about these stocks and they have no idea what's going on. So maybe tomorrow they'll wake up and be like, maybe I should allocate a little bit to this. But if you think about it, cannabis stocks could eventually get included in healthcare ETFs because cannabis is medicine. 40 states have medicinal cannabis programs. So that means a ton of money could flood into this sector. And it's not going to happen overnight by any means. But that is something to think about. So for me, in terms of like, oh, I got to close my trades, like, no way. This is like the starting bell. And to be honest, this isn't even the starting bell because this is just a rumor and the decision hasn't even been made. So now another thing to keep in mind, this is awesome. The moves are happening. This is amazing stuff. We also have another element at play. And that is, let's take a look at tonight's newsletter that we just published. This is something that I've been tracking for the past week, doing a bunch of research on. But if we look at the key ideas for tonight, the Supreme Court is having a closed-door meeting. This is happening tomorrow. And they are going to decide if they are going to hear this case, Canna Provisions v. Bondi. And this would be challenging federal prohibition against cannabis. They're having the closed-door meeting tomorrow. And then on Monday, they're going to announce if they're going to take the case or not. Now, there's 9 Supreme Court judges, and we need 4 of them to agree to take the case in order for it to go through. Clarence Thomas, we know, is a lock. Then the other 3, we'll see what happens. I think there's a good chance that this case is taken. And I think the whole timing of this whole sequence of events is not coincidence. We could be in a situation where we get the rescheduling, we at least have this rumor, but we could be in a situation where we get the Supreme Court saying, hey, we're going to take this case that could potentially challenge federal prohibition, as well as this rescheduling headline. And now I saw some people on Twitter, there was one guy, he's got like 2 million followers, and he reposted Kevin Sabet's thing. So I would imagine in the Twitterverse, we're going to see a lot of people talking about cannabis tomorrow. And keep in mind, no one owns these stocks. No one owns these stocks. No one owns these stocks. So with that said, tomorrow should be a great day. And again, if you've been in this trade with me, it's been not an easy trade by any means. So hats off for sticking with it. And I really appreciate you supporting our work at Pristine Capital. It absolutely means the world to me. So thank you so much for being a subscriber. Have a great evening.